A Nightmare on Elm Street is a movie that came out in 1984, and it was made by Wes Craven. Craven is also well known for his other movies, such as Scream, Hills Have Eyes. Now, this was his crowning achievement in many cases, and it's also a movie that built New Line Cinema into the powerhouse it was in the 90s. So without further ado, let's get to it and see if it lives up to the hype. This is A Nightmare on Elm Street. The movie begins with Tina being chased by her worst fear, Crazy Dream Sheep. Then Freddy jumps out. Tina wakes up with cuts in her nightgown.
Gotta cut your fingernails, you gotta stop that kind of dreaming. One or the other.
Damn, Mom, how sharp do you think her nails are? Anyway, the next day, we're introduced to Nancy, Rod, Glenn, who looks kind of familiar, but I can't quite place him. After school, Nancy, Tina, and Glenn decide to have a sleepover at Tina's house to try to help her get over her nightmare. After goofing around for a while, they hear something in the backyard, and they decide to sacrifice Glenn. Glenn is then put on his back by Rod, and then later Rod puts Tina on her back, and the nightmare for everyone ended there. And they all lived happily ever after and went to colleges across the United States. As if. That night, Tina dreams about a burnt man. Tina is then chased around the neighborhood, and then she is killed in one of the most iconic scenes in horror history. Then Rod, for some reason, jumps out of a window looking for the killer. What? What did he think happened? What, he thought there was a Skyrim or something?
I guess it was just my imagination.
Police show up. We find out that Nancy's father is actually a police officer. The next day, Todd tries to drag Nancy away like he's a solid snake or something, but gets caught. Later that day, Tina attends class. And I have to say, I admire Tina for her dedication of going to school even after death. And of course, Nancy follows her friend who's in a body bag and being dragged by an unseen force down to the basement. Eventually, Nancy ends up in the boiler room and is cornered by Freddy. She burns herself in the dream, and it wakes her up in real life. The burns turn out to leave actual scars in reality. Cut to Rod in the jail cell telling Nancy about what happened that night, and about a weird dream that he had, very similar to hers. After that, it's time for Stay Awake Pills and Evil Dead marathons, cause that won't make you scared. After that, she talks Glenn into engaging in a little dream experiment with her. I've always wondered, if he's here in a dream, how is he awake? Nancy sees Freddy standing over Rod, only to change his attention towards her. Freddy chases Nancy until her alarm goes off. After smacking Glenn for falling asleep, they decide to run and check on Rod, make sure he's okay. But they get there too late. After the funeral, Nancy still thinks it was the man from her dream. Her parents pretty much tell her to fuck off, and her mom decides to take her to a dream clinic. At the clinic, Nancy pulls a hat out of her dream. Nancy's mother still doesn't believe what she's saying and asks her where she got the hat. She got the hat from her dream. God damn, David Blaine would be proud of this trick. Nancy's mom still doesn't believe her, even with the evidence looking her in the face. Talking to Glenn about dreams, Nancy learns a secret about beating bad dreams. She learns all this from Glenn while reading a book on boogie trap. Later that day, Nancy gets home to see that her mother has turned the house into San Quentin. Leading Nancy to the basement, Nancy's mom shows her Freddy's claws and explains how Freddy was a child killer who got away because a warrant wasn't signed in the right place. So a bunch of the parents got together and burned him alive. Talking to Glenn on the phone, Nancy phrases the most iconic line in all of horror history.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
She plans to go into her dream world and pull Freddy out. Then Glenn is supposed to do something like beat him with a bat or something like that. Of course, Glenn being a dumbass, he goes to sleep. Realizing that her boyfriend is a complete idiot, she tries to rush to his house to save him, only to find that her mother has locked the door.
I locked it all up.
Despite his daughter telling him she knows who the killer is, and despite all the evidence that it wasn't Rod, he still refuses to listen. Nancy proposes the same plan, but instead of Glenn, she puts her dad in his place because Glenn is frankly asleep. Yeah, that's what it is, asleep. Nancy gets started on Freddy proofing her home. Later, Nancy goes to sleep, and in the dream world, she struggles with Freddy Krueger, only to wake up and find him nowhere to be seen. Luckily, Nancy set traps all over the house, and Freddy reenacts Home Alone with her. Nancy finally gets her dad's attention by setting Freddy and the house on fire, but he's too late and Freddy decides that he wants a MILF and heads upstairs to visit Nancy's mother. I don't believe you even after this. Wait till Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I still won't believe. After Nancy sends her father away, Freddy returns. Nancy turns her back on Freddy, taking her power away. Everybody lived happily ever after.
Buddy.
Believe this fog?
Oh, I believe anything is possible.
As if. Anyway, the car is actually Freddy trapping all of them, and Nancy's mother is sucked through a window. Well, that was Nightmare on Elm Street. I love the dreamy atmosphere. I think it had to do a lot with the fog they used in it, which kind of gave it this really dreamy type of look that you could only really get on that old type of film, and I haven't seen it since, especially in these modern movies. Well, thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Pleasant dreams.